Alright guys, today we're going to be installing a Mondella Concerto back-to-wall toilet suite. This is a common one to get from Bunnings. First things first, make sure you have everything that comes with. Next step, get rid of any form of instructions. Don't need them. Get rid of all these brackets and shit to screw it to the floor. Just a pain in the ass for the next guy. If you ever change the toilet, it puts holes through the waterproofing, through the floor. Might not cover it up next time, so better off just caulking it at the end. So yeah, we've got everything. On to the next step. Alright, so the flooring guys removed the old toilets, and we just got this stuff in here, the old pan adapter, stopping the smell coming out. That's never getting used again. We'll replace that anyway. But yeah, we'll take this out and I'll show you how to measure up the next one. Alright, so to get the measurement that we need for this pan collar to sit from the wall to the edge of it, I get a straight edge. So I'm just going to use my saw here, and there's a little waste connection there for the toilet. So I'm going to measure from the edge of it to the back of the pan. And I'll use this saw as a straight edge to get the proper measurement. So it's sitting at 195 from the start of that to the edge of this, which is the back. So I need to allow at least 50 mil, which will get us back so that the actual rubber sits past this section, but doesn't stop out on the back of the porcelain there. So I'm going to put that in, dummy fit it, and mark where we need to cut. Alright, so I've got it in. I'm measuring off the wall because that's where it's going to sit. There is a little bit of tile here, but that's going to be alright. It's still going to sit back to the wall. So I've got about 245 because it's 195, so plus the 50 we're talking about. I'm going to cut it there, put the rubbers on, and get to the next stage. So we've got that cut, that's in. Now just to get the height, we've got to measure from the floor to the center of this waist, and then we're going to push this down to that height, which I've already done, and standard is 185, and this is a standard install, so that's going to work. Alright, the next step is to put this support bracket on and then screw it back to, I've got it to the stud here, but generally it's not going to be an exposed wall, so you can just put some plaster mates and screw it to the plaster. That just stops it if it needs to come back out to service the pan, change this rubber or anything. You know, it's not going to pull off the wall, it's not going to come out of the ground and make a big mess. Alright, so the next step is to assemble the actual unit. So I'm going to assemble it in that room, just so it's not as hard to move around and push in, but make sure you got all the pieces. So what we got here is just a rubber on either side. So one on the top, one on the bottom with a screw, and we're going to screw those in, get that nice and tight and fairly centered with this flush hole in the porcelain. And that way everything's going to sit nice and square with all this. Alright, so we've got those in. It might be a bit hard to see, but that's underneath. So the next step is to actually fix this to the pan. And what you definitely need to do every time is tighten all these three penetrations through, because they always come quite loose. So we give them a decent tighten up. And then I'll just ensure there's no leaks. Alright, so I've popped the rubber on there, put a flexible connection there. I need to feed this through that hole and out that hole, that way we can get to this little mini stop on the wall. So I'll pop that in and get to the next one. Alright, so we've put that on, fed it through, got your rubber there. Now I'm just going to put you down for a sec. So basically we need to get these to fixing screws and rubbers into those holes down there and make them line up. Focus, yeah. So the easiest thing is to, first of all, remove this flushing mechanism. I'm going to twist and it'll click over and pull out. And then we just feed our screws through there. Alright, so I've screwed those down so it's nice and firm. It's not going to move anywhere. These screwdrivers are a blessing. They go finish the whole way down. So pick yourself up one of these. I think it's probably 600 mil-ish, maybe 500 mil. And yeah, we'll push this back to the wall and go from there. Alright, we're gonna, we got that pushed back now to the wall. We're gonna hook up that flexi, test it. That way we can put our torch through here, see if there's any leaks, which there won't be. And then we can put the toilet seat on. I've put the flush valve back in, put the lid on, keep testing it as we're working, and then we're going to cork it off at the end. Alright, assembling these buttons, pretty straightforward. With this one, you want to make sure that that cutout's at the back so you don't see a gap. Line this up with the right side of your flush mechanism. Basically insert that, get this bracket, pop that over, and then there's a little screw nut thing here that just goes on and brings it home. Alright, and then with these ones, these is what pushes on the flush mechanism. So to change the length of it if needed, which these ones you do, just unscrew that, loosen it up a bit, and then you can actually unscrew this whole little section to make it a bit higher or longer, and then just pop that back down to lock it in place. Then when we sit that on top of the toilet, it'll hit the mechanism nice and flush it properly. Alright, so we've got the dunny in, and we're just going to put the seat on. So first things first, you want to make sure you have all the bits and pieces you need. So 2 of everything. And then you basically insert these. Just push them in, nice and firm. Easy peasy. You grab your little brackets that the dunny seat sits on. And your screws. And we'll tighten them up. So you want to make sure you still got a little bit of movement in them, just because when we put the seat on, we basically need to line up these 2 holes with those there. Alright, so that's lined up, and then the seat just clicks in. Yeah, just let it down gently because it's a soft closed toilet seat. And then we're basically going to push it and move it to get the seat in place. Opening it just to check the bottom actual seat, make sure that lines up nice and flush. And then we've got to push these buttons again, push them out, lift the seat off, and now tighten those screws without moving this. Alright, so they're nice and tight in the position we need them. So you take the protective film off these little cover plates and they just slip on, easy peasy. And then you can just lift the seat up, which I've got one-handed. And then make sure it clicks down. Alright, so we're all tested, all ready to go. Last thing we need to do is cork it in place. So just get our bit of silicone. Go all the way around. Definitely not a professional caulker, but it'll end up good. And then we just give it a spray. Something that smells nice, why not? A bit soapy. And then, basically grab a little rag. And then we can just use that. It's a little bit damp, makes it a bit easier to clean up. And you run that all the way around. Can I use my finger to make it a bit smoother? And then just do the other side, and you're all good. And you can barely see it, which is what you want. Nice and neat. In 24 hours, that's not going anywhere. And if you ever need to service it, easy peasy. Change the toilet, there's not going to be holes in the ground from putting those brackets in. And the next bloke will be happy in 15 years.